I think when people close their eyes and they picture the Troubles, it's usually black and white. When in fact, at the time, it was the 70s. You know, there was color everywhere. Young people living every moment. Everybody involved in this show had to recreate the past, bring it back to life, and get each detail right in order to tell this story in a way that will feel really vivid and authentic.
I grew up in West Belfast, and when I was first shown the back lot, I was like, this absolutely looks like the Lower Falls.
A bit more festive than I thought.
We are here at the back lot. This is the base of the Divis Flats. It was such a huge monolith of a housing estate.
Welcome to Divis, lad.
This was a particularly difficult set to design because the Divis Flats no longer stand in Belfast.
You're part of Divis. We look after each other here.
It was an IRA stronghold.
Tell him to get to Divis and bring Dr. Jack.
We can go into an alleyway here. These alleyways are part of the personality of Belfast. And incorporated in here. This is the interior of one of our call houses. A call house refers to a domestic house that would be friendly to the IRA. There's a lot of history that you can build on in the design here. The show set in the 70s isn't just the 70s. It's late Victorian or Edwardian wallpapers. It's 1920s and 30s wallpapers. These were a lot of the texture and the feeling that I wanted to continue throughout our different interiors.
Audiences don't see into shelves and cupboards, but it's all supporting the story and it's all detailed and it's all real. So as an actor, you don't have to kind of imagine anything. It's just like stepping into someone's home that already feels lived in and has a history.
When I started putting together the mood board, this palette started to emerge. Belfast brick, the Northern Irish green. I pulled out exciting colors that I thought worked with those vivid greens and those strong reds. And we ended up with these beautiful teals and mustards and some oranges and then the occasional pop of red.
You wanted it to have an authenticity, but also really to kind of pop and give you a sense that you're there.
What's interesting is like you're going in one day and you're like in the 60s and then you're in the early 70s and you're in the late 70s and you can absolutely see it.
The graffiti was a really good indicator to show how time passed. There were very early murals that started appearing in the kind of mid-70s and then the bigger murals that came in the 80s and the 90s. So in our later episodes, we have those bigger murals. We're showing the passing of time that way.
But how come it's suddenly our people taking their lives in their hands every time they pop to the shop for half a dozen fucking eggs?
We also showed the passing of time as the city became more and more destructed. Through boarding up windows, through broken doors, burnt buildings.
I was sat with my parents and they were getting quite emotional because we were going, oh, I remember we would play on the burnt out buses at the bottom of the street.
I also think that the Price sisters being the first women in the IRA, it would be really fun and interesting to bring in some of the late 60s advertising at the time.
Less time in the kitchen, more time in the bedroom. Welcome to the 70s.
If you think that we're just useful serving tea, then you might be missing your chance to win this war.
Part of the fun of the backlot was to have interiors that you could go all the way through. You could come through an alleyway, through a living room, and right out onto the road beyond.
It was sort of a playground of filmmaking, which meant that my imagination could sort of run riot.
That's so helpful for us as actors to like really get in the zone and feel like we're there.
Because if we buy it, we know that it'll work for an audience. We know that you're going to be immersed in this world.